Sponsored by Taylor Freelance, Rainier Ballistics, Hodgdon Powders, and JPL Precision.
Hi, I'm Doug and welcome to Power Fractor Show. We frequently get questions from people about chokes. What chokes to use or what kind of chokes are the best. So I'm going to talk a little bit in this segment about the different chokes that I use for three gunning. I like extended chokes. I use Briley's, but there's a lot of different companies that make chokes. But the Briley extended chokes are nice because they're easy to take out. I don't need a tool. Now if I leave it in here for a really long time, I won't be able to get it out. There's a good shot of a Briley choke. So you can see it's got a knurled section on the end. And it's got the name on there, it's easy to read. It also has, they use a little acid etching, so I don't know if you can quite see it there, but that says M on it. So I can tell from the outside which one I have in my gun. So from the outside I can tell what choke I have in. One of the problems is with a lot of chokes that come with factory guns, they're the ones that sit flush. So it's a couple things. Number one, you can't get them out with your fingers because they sit down inside, so you need a choke tool to undo them. Also, when they're in there, you can't tell which choke is in the gun. So you need to have a way to be able to tell what chokes are in. Now, Briley has some fancy ones that have different colors. This one, at least this acid etching on here, is enough that I can tell which one is in there. And so I generally leave modified in my gun. A lot of people shoot IC or there's a lot of different types. So we'll go over them in a second here. So this is what I like to keep in my gun. And I'll use modified probably 85 to 90% of the time. Now I do have some other chokes available, and Briley has these nice little choke boxes, and I like to carry my chokes in one of these. This one holds 3 chokes. They also have them that'll hold 5. And the nice thing is it keeps all your chokes together, so when they're in your bag, they're not all rolling around, banging into each other. And it also protects them. Have a nice little rubber coating on the inside here, so it keeps them from getting scratched up. So like I said, in my gun I normally have modified. Modified is kind of about the middle range. Generally guns, a lot of police type weapons, if you buy an 18-inch shotgun at the store and you bring it home, chances are it's going to have a fixed cylinder bore barrel. And cylinder bore just means it's straight and there's no choking. So the idea of choke is that the end of the barrel is smaller than the rest of the inside. So it's almost like if you had a pistol barrel and the pistol barrel kept getting smaller and smaller towards the end. That's what a shotgun barrel is. Chokes down a little bit smaller, okay, to change the patterns. So cylinder bore would be basically a straight choke. I have one here that I use occasionally. This is called diffusion. So what the diffusion choke is, it has a little bit of rifling inside here, and that diffusion actually takes and spins the shot a little bit as it comes out of the gun and opens the pattern up earlier. So the only places I would use this would be someplace where, like on all clay stage, where the clays were very, very close, and maybe a little bit of steel that wasn't too heavy and the steel was very close. Otherwise, your pattern is going to open up really quickly. It makes it easier. You can shoot a little bit faster on clays. Sometimes they use, see charcoal used sometimes. One time there's a stage, or actually 2 years in a row, at the Nordic shotgun match where you actually you threw out your own charcoal, so you could throw up to 2 at one time, and you had 45 seconds to throw these charcoal in the air and then shoot them. So you had your gun in one hand and you'd throw charcoal out and then shoot them, and throw charcoal out and shoot them. And so the diffusion is great for that because it opens the pattern up, because the charcoal aren't anymore about maybe, not even 5-6 yards away by the time you crack them. Next in line after diffusion, like I said, as you go tighter, so diffusion would be actually more spread apart than cylinder bore. Then cylinder bore, I don't carry one. Improved cylinder, I do carry an improved cylinder, which has a little bit of choking. No, not a lot, but a little bit of choking. Then my modified I carry, which would be next in line. And then improved modified, which is slightly tighter than modified. I don't carry a full choke with me. I've never had a reason to use it. I've never had problem knocking down steel with this gun, and I don't even shoot a very heavy load. I shoot Fiocchi slugs, which are they're 7/8 ounce slugs. They run about 1,300 feet a minute, and I shoot for birdshot. I shoot the Winchester AA Super Sports, which is a 1 ounce load running about 1,350 feet per second. Now that's out of a test barrel. It probably doesn't go that fast out of my gun, but I still haven't had problem knocking stuff over with it. The biggest thing I've had problems, the reason I have problems knocking over steel is if I don't aim at it properly and pull the trigger. But they generally won't fall down when you do that. So these are the 4 that I carry with me. There are quite a few others that are available. You could get full. They have a light full. I believe there's a light modified. So there's a whole range. What they've done is taken the basic chokes that used to just be cylinder, improved cylinder, modified, and full. And then they started putting chokes in between. So what these are has to do with the percentage of the amount of smaller the bore is. And usually they go in about 5,000 steps, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller. And with full being about the tightest one. So the biggest thing is now you've decided, you say, okay, so I'm going to get this stuff. I'm going to buy these chokes. So what does that mean? Well, it means a couple things. Number one, you got to figure out how your gun shoots. One of the things that's most important to me is shooting slugs. So I can live with some headaches because a lot of times you'll have slugs and birdshot on the same stage. One of the reasons that I keep them modified in my gun, and the reason I keep modified in my gun is my gun loves to shoot slugs with the modified choke. And so I can shoot a group, maybe 2-3 inches at 50 yards, which isn't too bad. I can easily keep the groups around 6 or 7 inches at 100 yards, and you're not going to see targets smaller than the 6-inch target at 100 yards for slugs. So if you can shoot that tight, you're going to be fine. It's not a rifle. You don't have to shoot, they don't have to shoot minute of angle. It's not going to be that important. But what will happen is you'll notice if you try your different chokes that you buy and you run slugs through your gun, you're going to notice that some will shoot fairly well and some will shoot very poorly. So the first thing you got to decide is, what can I live with? So if you're going to shoot, you should check all your different chokes. Now I wouldn't shoot you can, but it's probably not recommended to shoot slugs through anything heavier than modified, but I've seen people do it. But it's probably not a great thing to do. I mean, I'm not a manufacturer, but I think most manufacturers would tell you not to do it. But check the guns, the chokes that you would use with slugs. Go out and fire a few slugs with each one and do a pattern. Same thing with birdshot. So what I did was I fired the gun for slugs. I got it set up so that my slugs are hitting where I want, and then I go out and I'll pattern my shotgun. So this is just a regular IPSC target. I've taken a pen and marked the center of it, and then I use that as my aim point. And so what I'll do is I'll go through the different chokes that I have and do it at different distances. So it's nice to know at 15 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, what kind of pattern you have. And so you need to have each of your chokes set up so that you're confident that when you go on and shoot that you're going to have enough pellets on target. Now this right here, this is actually shot with this particular target was shot at 15 yards without any choke in the gun. So this is basically cylinder bore target. And you can see that, I don't know if you can see it very well here. Okay, so this gives you an idea of what you do. So like I said, you get some targets, or it doesn't have to actually be a target. You can use cardboard. I've also seen at some ranges that do a lot of shotgun, they'll actually have a metal plate, like a light metal plate or a board, and then a lot of times they'll just take and they'll paint it. So if you have a like an aluminum panel or something out there out of ways, I wouldn't want to shoot it real close. But if it's out of ways, you can just run paint over it and then shoot it, and you can keep reusing it. Cardboard to me is safer, better to use, and so just grab some cardboard, mark it out, and you can kind of see where the pattern goes. So from this target right here, I can see that it wouldn't be bad to use this open choke, but I probably wouldn't want to knock down steel too much farther than 10 or 15 yards. So I can tell from this that that's going to be about my limit with this choke. And you'll see as you shoot different chokes on here, you also may find that different chokes shoot to different locations. So you may find that when you shoot a modified choke, it might cluster around the center, but you might find that your full choke shoots off the side a little bit. So you want to make sure that you know where each of your chokes shoots. And that way, when you get to a match and you look at a stage, you can say, okay, I need this choke, and I'm going to do that. Like I said, there are certain shooters, me, and there's some big shooters that I don't consider myself a big shooter, but there are some well-known shotgun shooters that just leave chokes in their gun. I know one particular one that the gun is basically melted onto the to the choke. He hasn't taken it out in probably 10 years, and so the choke just lives in there. And he probably could get it out with a torch if he wanted to, but he just knows where that gun hits all the time. And so you're better off, in my opinion, and obviously his, knowing where your gun hits, exactly where your gun hits, and not playing games going back and forth with chokes. Now, I said if there was a situation where I thought that would benefit from a wider choke or a more open choke, that's a time where I might switch over, but it would have to be a specific situation, as the time I was shooting charcoal, hand thrown, or like an all clay stage, very, very close, something like that. Otherwise, I just live with modified. Now, it's up to you to figure out what you want to do. So go out, get your shotgun, get some shells, get your slugs, and go through and test all your stuff. That way, when you show up at a match, you'll know where it shoots, and you won't have any problem hitting targets. So if you have any questions about shotgun chokes, feel free to send us a line. You can get us at powerfactorshow@gmail.com. You can get us on YouTube, and you can also see us on our Facebook page or on powerfactorshow.com.